Hello, good day. How are you today? You're good, right? Okay, are you ready for today's lesson? You are? That is good. Today in basic science, we are going to be learning about measurement. Okay? Our topic for today in basic science is on measurement. Are you ready for the lesson? Okay, so first we are going to be looking at the meaning of measurement. Measurement is the process of quantifying and assigning a numerical value to an attribute of an object, such as its length, mass, volume, or time. It is a fundamental concept in science and everyday life. Okay, do we understand? Measurement means using numbers or units to describe and compare things like length, width, volume, or other properties of objects. It helps us understand how big, heavy, or long something is in a standardized way. Okay? Measurement is like giving a number to things to know how big, heavy, or long they are. We understood that, right? Good. So next we're going to be looking at different types of measurements. So first we're looking at density. Density is a measure of how much mass is contained in a given volume. It's calculated by dividing an object's mass by its volume. So the formula for density is mass over volume. Do we understand? Density is the measure of how much mass is packed into a given space. It's like how tightly things are packed together. And the formula for density is mass over volume. So if something is heavy for its size, it has a high density. And if it's light for its size, it has a low density. Okay? Do you understand? Density is like how crowded a party is. Imagine you have two parties with the same number of people, which is the mass, okay? The people is the mass. But one party is in a small room and the other is in a big hall, the volume, okay? The one in the small room is more crowded, just like a substance with high density has a lot of mass packed into a small space. Do we understand that? Okay, so objects with high density will sink in a fluid like water, while those with low density will float. Okay? Density is a property of substances, so different materials have different densities. Good. So next we're going to be looking at force. Force is a push or pull acting on an object. It can cause an object to move, change direction, or deform. Force is measured in newtons and is described by its magnitude and direction. Do you understand? A force is a physical interaction that can make an object move, change its speed, change its direction, or even change its shape. And force is measured in newtons. You can think of it as the strength of a push or pull. Do we understand? Forces can be balanced or unbalanced, which is balance no movement and unbalance causing movement. For example, to keep a book on the table, the force of gravity pulling it down is balanced by the normal force pushing it up. Okay? Force has both magnitude and direction. You can push an object to the left or pull it to the right. The unit for force is Newton. Okay? Good. Pressure. Pressure is the force applied to an area. It's calculated by dividing the force applied to an object by the area over which it's distributed. So the formula for pressure is force over area. So pressure is the force applied to an area. Think of it as how hard you push on something spread over a certain space. Okay? Pressure is a measure of how much force is distributed over a given area. Okay? Pressure is calculated using the formula force divided by area. Okay? So pressure is like a strong push on a small area or a gentle push on a big area. So next we're going to be looking at difference between mass and weight. Mass is how much stuff is in an object and it doesn't change. Weight is how heavy something is due to gravity and it can change depending on where you are. Okay? Mass is the amount of matter in an object. It is measured in kilograms or grams. Do we understand? Mass is the same everywhere in the universe. It doesn't change based on location. Okay? While weight is the force of gravity acting on an object with mass. It's measured in newtons. Weight depends on the strength of gravity where you are. It can change from place to place. It's like how heavy an object feels due to gravity. Your weight on Earth is different from your weight on the moon, even though your mass stays the same. Okay? So mass is how much stuff is in an object, and weight is how heavy that object feels due to gravity. Mass stays the same, but weight can change depending on where you are in the universe. Do we understand that? So we now know the difference between mass and weight, right? Okay, good. So today's lesson on measurement, we understood everything. We looked at measurement and we said it's about using numbers to describe things like length, weight, or volume, right? Did we say that? We also looked at density. It's how tightly packed stuff is. If something is heavy for its size, it's denser, right? Then we looked at force. Force is like a push or pull that can make things move, change speed, or change direction. And it's measured in newtons, right? Good. Then we looked at pressure. Pressure is like how hard you push on something. but also how big the thing is that you're pushing on, right? After that, we looked at the difference between mass and weight. Mass is the amount of stuff in an object and is the same everywhere. And weight is how heavy something feels due to gravity and can change depending on the location of where you are, right? Good. Okay, so next we are going to be looking at our assignment. I'm sure you're going to be able to do your assignment, right? Okay, that is good.